Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. We're coming to you live from Kaduna, where CardInvest 7.0 is holding. And yeah, you may be wondering why the big smile. Well, yes, we're joined by Madam Nasir El-Rufai, Governor of Kaduna State. He was trying to second guess where we're going on this one. Good morning and good to see you today.
Morning, Chamberlain. Good to see you.
Well,
welcome back to Kaduna.
Yeah, and it's the last CardInvest that we'll be talking to you with, particularly as governor.
Yeah, we may have another one in April because usually we host CardInvest in April.
Yeah.
But in 2020, because of COVID and the global lockdown, we took time to do it in September. So the calendar changed because of COVID. But we will discuss with the incoming governor. If he's amenable to it, we could have an 8th CardInvest in April, just a month before we leave office. It is possible, because I think that will give us an opportunity to wrap up and see everything we've done in 8 years, and total and say in 8 years we're able to get these investments, we're able to do this, do that, and set up, a roadmap for the next administration. So it's possible, but this is likely to be my last CardInvest.
Okay.
As governor.
And that will invoke mixed feelings, both on the part of investors, those who you work with, those who may want to do certain things moving forward. So it will be a tricky one. So for you, looking back, right from the very first edition of CardInvest, what sticks out for you from then till today?
Look, the whole idea behind CardInvest arose from the recognition that, we have a very young population in Kaduna. The median age in Nigeria is 18. In Kaduna is even lower, it's 16 to 17. Very young population that need jobs, and we recognize that the government cannot provide the jobs that are needed. So we must attract private sector investors that will set up factories, service businesses to absorb these young people. So we started that in a climate that was full of cynicism and concern. We didn't have the insecurity challenges we have now, but we had an environment that was unfriendly to business. So we deliberately went out of our way, not only to court investors, but to make it clear to them that we're going to make life easy for you. We took very clear steps to ensure that. And Kaduna moved from number 24 on the World Bank Ease of Doing Business rankings in 2014 to number 1 by 2018, all due to the effort of some of the young people you've seen. So, our objective was just attract investments, create jobs. And I think we've done that pretty well. But along the lines, we also realized that, we can also specialize. We can make Kaduna the technology hub of northern Nigeria, if not Nigeria. And in a matter of 2-3 years, we have seen Kaduna become perhaps the second most innovative center after Lagos. Abuja is claiming to be second, but we think we are second. With CAD ICT Hub, with Core Lab, with CADA Hive, we've done a lot in the area of developing information technology expertise. And our CAD ICT Hub is recognized as one of the leading centers for blockchain technology innovation, for instance. And we have many young people that have graduated from our hubs that are making tens of thousands of dollars every month. Our concern now is how to find a way to tax them. But the fact that people have jobs is what is satisfying for us. Of course, our progress, in my view, has been disrupted by the banditry that spilled out from the forest into urban areas, onto the Kaduna-Abuja train and the airport. But we are still pushing hard. And I think on the whole, we have done the best we can in the circumstances. And we hope that our successors will build on it.
Well, I'm happy that you mentioned innovation. because that's something a sizable number of people have been talking about in this country for decades, and I mean for decades. For a state government to be taking the lead in that one is quite cheering. So when you say that the government was trying to set up Kaduna State as the technology destination in Nigeria, I'm wondering at what point that started concerning, find a way to link it to CardInvest, because we played just before we came on the CardInvest themes over the years. 2016 was Kaduna is open for business. I'm suspecting that every year Kaduna is still open for business, but in various areas. But it was only.
But that was our first outing.
Yes.
So we had to say, forget the hostility of the previous government, and the attitude of the other party.
We'll talk about the politics. I know you're excited.
I know that.
But it was in 2020 that innovation really began to be a thing that you talked about.
Yes.
So in infrastructure, industrialization, and innovation, last year was towards a sustainable, knowledge-based economy. We'll talk about the resilient economy part of this year's zone, but at what essentially necessitated it? Because there are those who will be wondering, hey, it's Kaduna State. It's in northern Nigeria. What gave you the thought that this is something, there's a potential here for technology?
Look, we have studied Silicon Valley far back as 20 years ago when I was Minister of FCT. And we set up the first technology village in Nigeria when I was Minister, the Abuja Technology Village. So we already have a very clear idea about how Silicon Valley evolved. And we went to Bangalore and studied what they did, and we tried to replicate it in Abuja. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it up to a point of irreversibility. And you know what happened after I left the FCT. That project is still going on 20 years after. It's still not fully realized. And before I left, I had got commitments from HP, Microsoft, Dell, and many technology giants to locate in the Abuja Technology Village. So what we tried to do here in Kaduna was to look, initially we didn't think that we would start with a technology village. But an opportunity came when Zenith Bank decided they want to donate a building to us. They said, tell us what you want, we'll build for you. And we gave them a piece of land, and they built a very nice facility that we felt would be ideal for outsourcing company. So we got Nigeria's largest outsourcing company was based in Kano. They were facing hostilities in Kano. We relocated them to Kaduna. This outsourcing company is led by a lady, Amal Hassan, and they provide services to many foreign organizations. They teach Nigerians to have American accent, British accent, and so on, depending on the customer. And she has, about 3,000 people working for her here in Kaduna, working 24-hour shifts. So that was the building that we started with, and we had outsourcing. We had a group that was doing research in blockchain and so on, and we gave them the building free of rent for 5 years. Then they started attracting others, and one of the conditions for the emergence of technology hubs is the existence of universities. We have several universities in Kaduna State. We have more than 20 tertiary institutions, from Ahmadu Bello, NDA, Kaduna State University, Kaduna Polytechnic, many, federal and state and private. We have about 10 just around Kaduna. And many of them offer engineering, all types of engineering and computer studies. And so they started coming there, and then the UN, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, gave us a grant to develop a data laboratory, because data quality is a major issue in Nigeria, and we linked that to the Kaduna ICT Hub. And more talent started coming. And then we realized that, there is an opportunity really to scale this up. And we identified a large piece of land, 7 hectares, and in partnership with Core Lab and Talent City based in Lagos, we tried to create an entire Kaduna Technology Village. And we built it. and just gave it to the private sector. We don't, we've realized in this country, anything that the government tries to lead doesn't work. If you want to get the maximum capability of young people in Nigeria, create the environment and step back.
If I could just follow up on that quickly. Now, looking through from the first card investor up until now, and then extrapolate it to the entire country.
Yes.
Have we gotten to the stage where we can say, look, the private sector needs to actually, grow and take their pride of place? Because, the very first card invest, if I remember properly, I think one of the statements there was that the private sector investment is the best vehicle for employment.
Yes.
And so now, what do we need to do to get to that stage where politics or policies over there will not affect or be an impediment to private sector growth in the country?
Look, in my honest view, the role of government is that of an enabler, facilitator, and dispute resolver. Okay, so if you look at Nigeria, the fastest sectors of growth and employment in Nigeria today are sectors where the government has ignored or inadvertently did not get involved in. Entertainment, Nollywood, our music is global, Our young people are creating unicorns, the flutter waves of this world and so on. These are areas that the government has not understood enough to go and regulate and mess up, okay? And I believe that our role as Kaduna State government in an area that we want to develop like ICT is to look at the constraints. Okay, these people need a workspace, they need fiber optic connections, they need this. We provide that. And we say, look, it's free. Okay, go ahead, create the jobs, make money, we'll tax you when we can. So far, we've not been successful in doing that, but I think future governments will find a way. And we've seen these sectors boom. Any sector that Nigeria, the federal government in particular, tries to get in, gets messed up.
But isn't that a problem?
It is a problem.
Allow me to ask it as a question. Because when you say government, the image in the mind of the average investor, especially the small businesses, is that of some draconian Dracula somewhere.
Difficulties, bureaucracy, corruption. That's the picture of government. At the end of the day, and it should be the exact opposite.
Exactly. At the end of the day, what I always say to my colleagues, let's decrypt government. It's just one individual. Just one individual somewhere goes to misrepresent the ideas or ideals of government and says, do this, and before you know what is happening, everyone is mentioning government.
Yeah.
So how do we demystify these individuals that mess up the name of government and don't allow the progress that governments successively wants to work?
Okay, look, I think there are three issues and we must separate them, okay? Sometimes governments make good policies and the officials mess it up. Sometimes governments make bad policies so that whether those policies are implemented well or not, they mess up the environment anyway. And often the quality of leadership in government, determines whether good policies or bad policies ever get executed. In my view, these are the three issues we have to look at. Now, in a country like Nigeria, where the public service quality is weak, it can be significantly improved. I think any area that the government can just get out of, okay, it should. Okay, while we are scaling up the quality of public servants, train them, bring them up to 21st century skill sets and mentality, and understanding that, the main role of government is servant of the people. That's why it's called public service, not masters of the people. Okay, because we inherited government from colonial masters, we still behave as if government is master of the people. It is the exact opposite. I think one of the things we've tried to do in Kaduna is to change that thinking, to say that, look, your job is to help investors, is to resolve their problems, is to debottleneck whatever hurdles they face, so that they will put in their money so that we have these jobs. Okay? Many people in government at various levels don't understand this. Okay? So it's important to do that. We need good policies. Often the policies are not so well thought out. We also need leadership. We need quality leadership that is focused, that will ask every day, how is this going? I mean, when we decided that we are going to focus on technological innovation, okay, it was not just Kadipa. We brought all the agencies together that are involved in this. We had a round table and said, this is what we are going to do. And I call every week and say, how is this going? You know, because you have to push people. You have to, you know, keep digging and pushing and encouraging and cajoling. And where you find someone has missed the road, you sanction the person immediately. We live in a society where there are no sanctions. You know, there is no reward for good behavior. There are no sanctions for bad behavior. This is why we are where we are. Particularly in government, where people think that they have protected jobs. You can't fire them. Guess what? Here in Kaduna, we fire people. Look at the guys you talk to. They are young, they are smart, they are driven, they want to achieve things. And they know that I have their back. They can do anything. I will take responsibility because I'm the one that got elected, and I will defend it. Even when they are wrong, I will say, yes, I told them to do it. They will do better next time. And this is why we're able to achieve something in Kaduna. You know, that mindset is changing, even among the public service. And you can talk to our investors. They will tell you good stories about how, you know, our officials are friendly, they are nice, they do this, they never ask for a penny. And even after we get an investor to invest, we don't just ignore him. You know, they have something that this young man, Khalil, introduced called aftercare service. That from time to time they go to the investor and say, look, how are you doing? Any problems? What can we do? Is it, are you having problems with the water corporation? Are you having problems with power? You know, what can we do? And, you know, they keep engaging. And this is what governments should do. This country is too big. Our population is too high. Our youth unemployment rate of over 50% is unacceptable. That governments must make creation of jobs the most important economic policy item. And we've tried to do this in Kaduna, and I think to some extent we've succeeded. So you know, we need to do this nationally.
Just a quick one, I know Bukola has a question for you. When you said earlier that any sector in which government can get out of the way, they should.
Yes.
What sectors would you suggest?
Look, let me begin with an example for those that are more than 20 years old. We used to have a company called Nitel, which got $7 billion in investments over the years to give Nigeria 400,000 telephone lines. Those of you that are old enough remember that. It's the most expensive phone system in the world, and it made many people rich. Siemens, ITT, you know, there are people that even ran for president because they made money from telecoms, like late Chief M.K.O. Abiola. But we had the worst phone system in the world. In 2001, okay, against all odds of national security, this and that, we got out of telecoms. We licensed, we raised $1 billion in license fees. We brought in the likes of MTN and Econet, and we decided to sell Nitel itself. What is the result? The result is what you're seeing today. You are only able to do this because of the investments in telecoms infrastructure that happened in the last 20 years. And all of it was private. All of it till today. So that's what I mean. And I'm giving this example so that when I say the government should get out of oil and gas, people shouldn't think it's crazy. It is not. There is no reason why the Nigerian government should still be in the oil and gas sector. It should just get out. It has failed. By every measure, it has failed. This year, NNPC has not brought 20,000 naira to the Federation account. Okay? We are living on taxes. It is PPT, royalties, and income tax and VAT that is keeping this country going. Because NNPC claims that subsidy has taken all the oil revenues.
You don't believe that?
I don't believe it. Okay? But this is what they say. Okay, so the government should sell everything in the oil and gas sector. I have been making this point since 1999 when I was head of BPE, and I have not changed my position. The government should get out of whatever is left in electricity, leave it to the private sector, create the environment, the money will come. We did that in telecoms.
What about this commercialization, Your Excellency?
Commercialization of?
The new NNPC Limited, it's not going to work?
What has changed? Nothing has changed. It's just a change in name with limited at the end. And the fact that now, maybe their accounts will be audited faster and so on and so forth. But nothing has changed. They are still taking our money. They are still declaring profits that we don't see the dividends. And NNPC is a big problem for Nigeria, and unless we resolve it, it will bring Nigeria to its knees. I have said this 5 years ago, and it has not changed, even with Melekari, who is trying to do well. But it's a systemic and institutional problem. It's beyond one person.
All right, so we'll go to break, but we'll return in just a moment and take you through, well, you never can tell what area we will be covering. Yes, we're talking about Card Invest, but we'll be right back.
Yes, indeed. Welcome back. It's still Sunrise Daily on Channels Television. We're reaching you live from Kaduna State. Yes, it's Kaduna Card Invest 7.0, the 7th edition of that summit that showcases the economic potential of Kaduna State and the progress made so far. We have His Excellency, Governor Nasir El-Rufai, with us. Your Excellency, for me, it's, yes, Card Invest shows what's possible in Kaduna State so far. But when you say you've done your best where security is concerned, I wonder if that is resignation, because there's, let me articulate the question. There's a whole lot of potential beyond the farmers selling what they can to the off-takers. There's the technological expertise that has been developed that you just talked about. So there's a whole lot. They can increase their capacity, but where security is concerned, they're limited. For instance, when we were coming, someone was saying that, the crisis on Cotton Carfe, where they've been unable to pass and go down to the other states because of the flooding. Somebody was saying that Breningwari is a shorter route down to Lagos. So when you say you've done your best where security is concerned, is it resignation, or what else can be done to open up Kaduna such that Kaduna can be accessed via train, via the roads, and there can be more flight options so that these potential can be exported to the outside world?
I don't know whether it is resignation or frustration or both. It's certainly not abdication, because as a state government, we've done all we can to make our state secure. We've spent billions of naira. In fact, we're adding up the numbers now because, we want to approach the president and say that, we need some of these expenses to be reimbursed to us. Why? Because defense and security are completely the responsibility of the federal government. Nigeria is the only federation in the world with one centralized police. We've argued for years against that. We've asked for devolution. We've asked for amendment to the Constitution to have federal police like the FBI, then state police, then even local government police. But that has not happened. So
why is that the case?
We have police. Yeah. We have police commissioner. But frankly, the police commissioner can refuse to carry out any orders I give him as governor unless the IG says it's okay to do it. All right? I'm not saying I've given any orders and they have not been complied with, but I'm saying generically this is how things work. Okay? We need to do something about that. I have no control over something as simple as policing. Okay? Right. The issue of how many policemen we have and the fact that we don't have inadequate security footprint is another issue. We have 300,000 policemen. When we came into office, we had 13,000 policemen in Kaduna. We needed 20,000, but we had 13. Now it's down to 11,000. Okay, so even the simplest, the first line of law enforcement police, is inadequate, it's not under the control of the state governments. So when people say state governors are chief security officers, it is just a cliche, 3 words in the Constitution, but not in reality. Secondly, the levels of insecurity have gone beyond simple insecurity to terrorism. These bandits, I have argued for years, are terrorists. The fact that they don't have command and control, like Boko Haram, does not mean they are not terrorists. Because when we tried to classify them as terrorists, people reminded us that they're just gangs. They don't have one leader. They don't have a shekau. Okay? That's someone's definition of a terrorist. My definition is any organization that challenges the sovereignty of the state. It's a terrorist organization.
They don't have to have a shekau.
Precisely. But, the international definition of terrorists is an organized group with an ideology, with its command and control and so on. So we couldn't get past that. Now, once you have terrorists, you need the military. Okay? In our own case, with the inadequacy of the police, even what the police could have done, we bring in the military anyway. Who is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces? The president. Okay? We have one div here, we have garrison commanders. I can't tell them what to do. I can, but they can just say, yes, sir, salute, and walk away and refuse to do anything.
So what do you need that hasn't been provided for by the federal government?
Well, look, I have said many times in the last 2-3 years that, in my view, what was needed even then is an offensive against the bandits. We should not adopt a defensive strategy in which when they attack and kidnap people, then we start chasing them. All right? We should map them, and we know where they are, okay? And just wipe out all of them. Just bomb them. Kill everyone. Yes, some innocent victims that have been kidnapped, that are in custody, may die, but that's collateral damage is allowed in war. Okay? I'm not being hard, I'm just saying that you have to choose between 2 evils. And for me, wiping out the bandits, letting them know that you will die, it's a matter of days or weeks, okay, is a better deterrent than waiting for them to reform. They will never reform. They make so much money. This thing has become an industry that, sooner or later, everyone will get onto it. And this is what we've seen happening. So we were totally helpless. We've made representations, we've shouted, we have written, nothing. But I'm happy to say that in the last 6 weeks, there has been a change because, the military has now deployed special forces here, and they are taking the bandits out. The Air Force is bombing them. All the things that we asked for 3 years ago is now happening. Now, if that had been done 3 years ago, we would be in a completely different environment because 3 years ago, they were much fewer in numbers. We knew the camps, we knew everything. We know everything about them. We listen to their conversations. Okay.
What about the option of local security networks, which your colleagues have begun to adopt in some states of the north, Zamfara, Benue?
We have them, but look, those local security networks can only provide maybe local intelligence. They do not have the firepower to face these guys. These guys sometimes even rout the military. So, people are talking simplistically when they say, oh, I want to get AK-47 for my Amotekun. You don't know what you're dealing with. We know. These guys are very well armed. These guys are getting arms that are sophisticated, that flew into the Sahel when Gaddafi's government collapsed. They have sophisticated weapons. Sometimes they outgun the military. So those vigilance service, those local security networks are not up to scratch.
Well, before we go on to the next questions on CAD Invest and what people should expect, I mean, you mentioned this in passing, so just wanted to find out, because when we opened, the northern and southern governors appear to be on the same page now on state police. So the natural question is, I mean, their representatives are all in the states, they talk to the governors. What's the impediment now?
Well, the impediment is that there are people in Abuja that think a centralized police should continue. However, the National Assembly will look at this after they pass the budget, because we have met as Nigerian Governors Forum, we've met as Progressive Governors Forum, and we have asked our representatives in the National Assembly to begin the process of getting this constitutional amendment through. I'm also happy to say that a senator from this state, Senator Obasani, had already presented a bill to amend the constitution to allow for state policing and restructure the Police Service Commission and so on and so forth, so that you have national policing standards, but each state will have its own police in addition to the federal police. And the target is for us to have a total of 2 million policemen in Nigeria, federal and state. And the bill had passed first reading, I think, or second reading? No, first reading. And I think we've asked him to go back, take it through second reading and refer to committee, so that we can have the amendments to the Constitution on that, as well as one or two other issues, to be brought back before the State Houses of Assembly take all the amendments and pass them. So we've agreed as governors to do that, and we hope it will be done soon.
I know that in Card Invest, you've told investors that, look, don't worry, this will continue after I'm off as governor, and then, which is the natural question that everybody asks. And it's not just about Kaduna State investment, it's about across the country. Transition, it's always a big component. Even in private sector, continuity, it's always a huge component to success or failure.
Yeah.
But when you say that, well, my successor, and then you name, or maybe the person comes from your party, what assurance, how do they receive that? Because they know that there's a democratic process. We have to go through elections.
Yeah.
It may or may not be him.
Yeah. Well, look, no one can give any guarantees about the future. Only God, okay? For those of us that believe in God. Not everyone does. But based on what I have seen in many states and even at the federal level about transitions, I believe that every leader, every manager in any position should work on his succession from day one. This is what I was told in my first MBA class. You know, the moment you are a manager, start training your successors. You know, you should get yourself unemployed as quickly as possible. So train successors, 2, 3, 4, you know, because some will fall by the wayside. And this is what we've tried to do in Kaduna. The person that won the primaries in our party to succeed me was part of our original team. He was part of crafting the restoration program. He was part of Card Invest. He was my political advisor in our first term, and he's now a senator during our second term. And we are one state that has maintained a unique relationship with our representatives in the National Assembly. I meet with them regularly. It used to be monthly before COVID, but I meet with them and we brief them on our own policies. So they're fully in the picture of what's happening in Kaduna. And we also coordinate with them as to what federal assistance we need regarding their constituency projects. You know, for instance, we told them, please, no more primary health centers. We have enough of them. What we need is to equip and staff the primary health centers. We have over 1,000 of them. So don't go and build primary health centers. Don't go and be building classrooms in the middle of the bush. Let us have bigger schools. Let's have boarding schools so that, you know, so we coordinate with our National Assembly members. And across party lines, I meet with all of them from time to time. So they know what we are doing, we know what they are doing, and we have excellent relations. So what we tried to do during our primaries process was to ensure that no outsider of our initial team, the inner circle, gets the ticket to run for governorship under APC, and we succeeded. The 3 front runners were all insiders. Okay, they have been in the government from 2014. We campaigned together, we crafted the manifesto together. So I have confidence that there will be reasonable degree of continuity. And I assure you that if Senator Obasani, let's not say if, when Senator Obasani wins, by the grace of God, many of the young people you see here, you will see them at next year's Card Invest, because some of them were brought here by him. We were part of an initial team. Of course, you know, Hafiz, Tama, they were young people then. They were technical assistants, special assistants, but they have grown over time. Khalil was a youth corper. He just came in as a youth corper. He was so good, we kept him. He is now the youngest head of parastatal in Kaduna State. He's 29 now, and he's been on the job 2 years. So most of these young people will be kept. They will continue. So there will be continuity in personnel, which leads to continuity in policy direction. So I'm reasonably confident that our investors will not see much change in direction. In fact, they will see improvement, because most of us, the old guys at the top, will leave, and Uba will bring even younger people, or elevate the younger people to higher positions.
Pardon me, is that going to affect the 84 megawatt gas power plant which you spoke about? What's happening with that?
The 84 megawatt gas power plant will be completed before we leave office.
Oh, okay.
The 100 megawatt solar power plant is also likely to be completed before we leave office. What may not be completed is the state transmission network. We are building our own transmission network. We are tired of national grid collapsing. So we want to take ourselves off the national grid if we can. We'll build our own state transmission network. We haven't decided whether we'll do it at 132 kVA or 66 kVA. Both can work. But with Kudenda, the federal government's 215 megawatts, our 84 megawatts, that's 300 megawatts, and 100 megawatts solar, I think we'll be able to get twice more power than Kaduna State gets now from TCN.
So the law allows you to build that?
The law allows us to build that.
Okay.
It, you know, the Constitution allows us to do that. With the constitutional amendment that has already been passed by the National Assembly, it will even strengthen the states more to be independent of TCN and the federal government. Now, and this is important, because Nigeria's power problems can never be solved by the federal government alone.
Well, you already said
this is one area.
You already said
yeah,
that earlier, the private sector.
This is one area where the private sector needs to get in. The states have to do their bit.
Okay.
And with new technologies offering renewables and off-grid solutions, I think it is time for us to stop thinking of large hydro and large gas plants and move towards off-grid solutions.
But Your Excellency, we had this conversation with you in 2019, and I can't but bring it up. You are exiting government in another few months, so to speak. You said then, when we asked you, what do you want to be remembered for, if you remember that conversation? And you said, as governor of Kaduna State, and I quote, "What matters to me the most is education and healthcare." Remembered as the one that tries to restore the quality of public education, which is what I got.
Yes.
In your opinion, how far would you assess yourself to have gone with that?
Well, look, we have invested significantly in education. Every year, at least 25% of our budget goes to education. Are the results evident? No. There, you can say, people talk about improvements. Children now speak English and all that, primary school, secondary school, and so on. But investments in education take a generation. So it is 30 years from now that the products of our reforms will come to life. So that is still an open question. Has our ranking in WAEC improved? No, it has remained almost the same. We are 12th. And a lot of the improvement is in our public schools. The private schools have remained where they are. The public schools have moved out a little bit. So the jury is still out on that. Healthcare, yes, we have got some indices of infant and maternal mortality improved. But again, you know, the major areas where I wanted to see change was to have, you know, a large number of Kaduna State citizens on health insurance. We have less than 1 million. Meanwhile, we have registered nearly 6 million residents. I want all the 6 million residents to be on health insurance so that when they go to a hospital, they don't become broke overnight. We have not made a lot of progress on that. But, you know, for me, governance is a work in progress. You lay foundations, you try to change the direction and attitudes of people and hope that your successor will keep in that direction. 8 years is too short to really show significant improvements in many areas. What we have tried to do, as I said, is to be enablers. You know, let's provide infrastructure. Let's provide what people need to feel safe and secure. Let us reduce the weaponization of religion and ethnicity so that people will look at each other and work as human beings rather than as Muslim, Christian, Northern Kaduna, Southern Kaduna, and all that. And ultimately, I think you improve governance, you improve society by waking up every day and making sure that today works well, you know, better than yesterday, and tomorrow will be better than today. That's what we've tried to do. I don't know, I'm not sure now what I want to be remembered for, but if there is one thing that matters a lot to me, it is that we have removed the sense of entitlement among politicians to government resources in Kaduna State. We used to have a government that just distributes money and does very little. We have changed that perception, even among politicians. Nobody expects, you know, to get money from us. Nobody expects this. If you ask, we'll tell you, go out, the roads are there, the schools are working, the primary, you know. It was not popular, and many people predicted that I will not win elections, but I got elected twice. And this change in attitude, this clear difference between night and day, between the previous government of the other party for 16 years and what we've been able to do in 8 years in very difficult, resource-constrained circumstances, you know, for me is the most important thing we've done in Kaduna State. We have broken many glass ceilings. We have got the first woman elected in the Muslim part of northern Nigeria, elected as deputy governor, and she nearly got the ticket to be governor, but for some constraints, you know. We have a cabinet that has more women than men. It has never happened in the history of the state. Usually you have the talking Commissioner of Women Affairs. We have brought a large number of young people that people thought are useless, but you can see for yourselves what they can do. And I tell you, a lot of the results we are talking about is their effort. You know, there has been a lot of flooding, for instance, in most states in the north. No flooding in Kaduna.
Well,
okay. Why? Somebody thought we should dredge River Kaduna because it was a major source of flooding. This young guy called Hafiz Bayero, we spent a few million to dredge the river. We've not had floods. So this is what I want. This is it. And Tamar is not from Kaduna originally. She's from Plateau State. Khalil is not originally from Kaduna. His state of origin is Katsina, but he was born and grew up here. We have taken every Nigerian to be equal in this state. We have broken certain mindsets about ethnicity and religion. And honestly, for me, this is what I would want to be remembered for, because the other things will take much longer to begin to show.
At this stage, we have to look forward to having another session with you.
Yes, indeed.
Because, I mean, even Mr. Moyo will agree with us.
Yes.
So, we have to thank you for coming on. So, Card Invest, that is what you look out for, because all of those people who are working together in Card Invest, there will be a session which will be coming on pretty soon. But we have to thank you for coming on. And all the best for Card Invest 7.0. There may be
maybe
8.0.
8.0 under Governor El-Rufai.
You never know. You just never know.
In April.
So there you go.
Next year.
That is it with Sunrise. Okay, that is caveat. Well, Sunrise really came to you live from Kaduna State, where we're talking about Card Invest 7.0. Thank you for watching. I am Chamberlain Uso.
Indeed, thank you for sharing your day with us. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
Stick with Card Invest 7.0 and Channels Television. I am Akine. Have a wonderful day.